It's our honor to be here tonight and have Amanda present me this award. Thank you.
She was called perfect, but perfection nearly broke her. This is the real story of Adriana Lima, the supermodel who refused to disappear. Adriana Lima's story is not just about fashion or fame. It's about the kind of strength that doesn't glitter on the surface, the kind that forms deep within when the world starts looking away. For more than 20 years, she wasn't just walking runways. She was walking history. Her name was synonymous with confidence. Her walk was rhythm. Her gaze was control. She wasn't following the pulse of fashion. She was the pulse. But before the glamour, there was grit. A teenage girl from Salvador, Brazil, quiet, reserved, with big eyes and bigger dreams, entered a modeling contest without even intending to. She was discovered almost by accident, yet destiny already had her name written in bright lights. From that small coastal town to Paris to Milan to New York, every step was a rebellion against statistics, against expectation, against the idea that beauty only belongs to privilege. The rise of an angel. By her early 20s, Adriana Lima had conquered an empire. She became the living embodiment of the 2000s, that glossy era of televised runways, angel wings, and diamond-studded perfection. Her walk for Victoria's Secret wasn't just modeling. It was performance, theater, spectacle. The lights, the wings, the applause. She became part of pop culture's fabric. She was everywhere, from Vogue covers to Maybelline campaigns, from Super Bowl commercials to late-night talk shows. She represented something unreachable, yet everyone wanted to be her. The balance of innocence and danger, strength and femininity, mystery and warmth. She carried it all effortlessly. But even as the lights got brighter, Adriana's private world remained grounded. She never lost her sense of discipline. Early mornings, workouts, spiritual focus, and relentless professionalism. Colleagues often said she arrived first and left last. Behind the smoky eyes and camera flashes stood a woman who treated her work not as fame, but as craft. That focus carried her through the early peaks of her career. While many supermodels faded with trends, Adriana seemed immune to time. She wasn't just another beautiful face. She was a presence. Even among legends like Gisele Bündchen and Tyra Banks, Lima had something different: endurance, when the lights began to dim. But nothing in fashion lasts forever. The Victoria's Secret era, once the crown jewel of global modeling, began to crumble under its own weight. The world was changing. Feminism, inclusivity, and body positivity had entered mainstream conversation. What was once seen as glamour began to feel outdated, narrow, and disconnected from reality. As headlines turned critical and the brand fell into controversy, so did the image of the angel. The public no longer wanted perfection. They wanted honesty. And with every article that questioned the brand's values, the supermodels who had once symbolized its glory became the faces of its downfall. For Adriana Lima, the transition was personal. She had given almost 2 decades of her life to that stage. When she walked her final Victoria's Secret show in 2018, her tears told a story words couldn't. It wasn't just the end of a job. It was the end of an identity. The camera captured her holding her hands to her chest, whispering, "Thank you." The crowd roared, but for Adriana it felt like silence. To millions, it seemed like a farewell. To Adriana, it was a rebirth. Motherhood and rediscovery. In a world where women are often told that their value fades with age, Adriana Lima's next chapter became her most radical act. She became a mother, unapologetically. The modeling world had rarely celebrated pregnancy, aging, or the natural shifts of a woman's body. But Adriana didn't conform. She embraced it. Her pregnancies were not hidden, they were honored. She shared her journey publicly, the cravings, the insecurities, the joy. She talked about her body changing, about learning to accept softness where once there was control. It was more than transparency. It was defiance. For a model whose fame came from perfection, this honesty was revolutionary. It shattered the illusion of the untouchable supermodel and replaced it with something far more powerful: humanity. Her fans no longer just admired her, they related to her. Adriana began speaking about her struggles with exhaustion, self-image, and postpartum emotions. And in that vulnerability, she found her new strength. The woman who had once represented the world's idea of flawless beauty was now teaching her audience that real beauty comes from endurance. She didn't fade into motherhood. She built from it. The quiet comeback. Then came the silence. And then the return. For years, the world had wondered if Adriana Lima would ever step back into the light. The cameras had turned toward new faces, new trends, new ideals. And for a while, she seemed content to let them. There were no desperate comebacks, no loud reinventions, no dramatic headlines. She simply vanished into her own life. Motherhood, reflection, stillness. The silence was not retreat. It was rebirth in disguise. Years after her supposed farewell, Adriana Lima walked again. But this time, it wasn't the same woman who once dazzled in angel wings. This was a different force entirely, a woman who had lived through cycles of fame, criticism, motherhood, and rediscovery. Older, wiser, serene, yet still radiant in a way that no youth could replicate. Her first major comeback moments weren't about nostalgia, they were about evolution. She appeared on the runways of Balmain and Fendi, not as a token from the past, but as a statement of the future. Then came Rihanna's Savage X Fenty show, a production that celebrated inclusivity, diversity, and strength in every form. The sight of Adriana standing there, confident, grounded, unapologetically herself, was poetic. Once the face of exclusivity, she had become the symbol of transformation. The industry saw it instantly. Her aura had changed. The energy was less fiery, but infinitely more powerful. She wasn't walking to be seen. She was walking to be. Each movement, each glance, carried the poise of a woman who no longer needed approval. Her body language spoke of peace, not the kind that comes from surrender, but the kind born from knowing exactly who you are. Her return also reflected something bigger than fashion. It was about reclaiming narrative, about showing that the end of one chapter doesn't mean the end of relevance. The Adriana Lima who returned to the runway wasn't chasing her past glory. She was rewriting her present. Her stride wasn't defiant, it was free. She wasn't there to prove she could still command attention. She was there to show that authenticity commands it naturally. For audiences, seeing her again felt emotional. Women who had grown up watching her in the early 2000s now saw themselves mirrored in her transformation. They too had changed, careers, families, bodies, dreams. Yet here was Adriana, walking again, proving that beauty isn't something you keep, it's something you become. And perhaps that's what made this comeback so unforgettable. It wasn't driven by youth, fame, or even ambition. It was driven by presence, the rare kind that only time can carve. Fashion had moved on from angels and fantasies, but Adriana's resurgence reminded everyone that true icons never fade, they evolve. Her walk, her calm, her aura, they spoke volumes without a single word. She became a quiet anthem for resilience, a living reminder that even in an industry built on reinvention, the most powerful transformation is simply becoming more yourself. When she stepped off that runway, cameras flashing, applause rising, it wasn't a return to what was lost. It was the arrival of who she had become. Timeless, unbreakable, and utterly her own. Legacy of a survivor. As the industry shifted toward authenticity, Adriana Lima's evolution became a template for longevity. She had outlasted trends, agencies, even entire movements. While some chased relevance, she embodied it. Her social media, once a gallery of glossy perfection, became intimate. Family moments, workouts, quiet mornings. She no longer needed to prove herself. She had already built her legend. What mattered now was showing the truth behind it. You could feel the difference. Her interviews carried depth. Her tone, gentler, reflective, wiser, mirrored a woman who had made peace with her own evolution. She was no longer the girl from Brazil trying to fit into fashion's mold. She was the woman teaching fashion to expand its own. Younger models began citing her as inspiration, not for her beauty, but for her discipline, her endurance, her authenticity. Adriana Lima had become a symbol of something that never goes out of style, grace that has been tested. And maybe that's her greatest legacy. Not the covers, not the campaigns, not the wings, but the courage to stay true when everything around her changed. Her presence in modern fashion events felt like a living contradiction, a bridge between what fashion used to be and what it was becoming. When she appeared on runways next to models half her age, there was no sense of competition, only continuity. She represented a kind of beauty that time could not replace, the kind forged through self-acceptance and endurance. Brands began to understand that authenticity sells better than fantasy. They turned to her, not because she symbolized youth, but because she symbolized truth. In a landscape crowded with filters and perfection, Adriana became the rare face of reality. Proof that confidence doesn't fade. It matures. Every appearance, every photograph, every word she spoke carried that quiet defiance, that she was still here, still radiant, still rewriting what it means to be timeless. The woman who redefined time. Today, Adriana Lima stands not as a memory, but as a movement. Her name doesn't just echo through the halls of Victoria's Secret or Balmain. It echoes in conversations about aging, motherhood, and identity in fashion. She proved that a woman's story doesn't have an expiration date. It just changes chapters. At 43, she still models, but now she does so on her own terms. Her face carries the experience of a lifetime. Her voice resonates beyond the runway. She's not chasing fame, she's curating meaning. In a world obsessed with youth, she became the definition of timeless. Because time can age the body, but it cannot touch purpose. Adriana Lima's story is not about the spotlight. It's about the shadows she walked through to find herself again. It's not about the applause. It's about the silence she learned to love. It's not about staying young. It's about staying real. She didn't just survive the collapse of an empire. She outlived it, and then built a new one out of truth. They said her time was over, but she came back stronger than ever. Adriana Lima didn't just refuse to break, she refused to disappear. And in doing so, she became something even rarer than a supermodel. She became human and unbreakable.